Adam Hayes. I'm joined to my left by my co-host, Bob Payton. Across from us today, we have our guest, Mike Semon with Metric IT. Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thank you, guys. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. So how are things at Metric IT? What do you do there?
Well, things are good this morning. It's ironic you brought an IT guy with a company onto the show at this date.
So it's July 19th at 10:16 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
We're in the middle of the largest IT outage in human history right now.
Fueled by what piece of software was it?
Well, there's a software in the class of endpoint detection and response, which most people would probably understand it as a modern day version of antivirus. Software company by the name of CrowdStrike pushed out an update. It was a content update, something that's supposed to be some information about what bad guys could be or look like to protect the machines against it. And there was something wrong with that content update, and it has shut down systems across the world, airlines, banks.
Credit card processing.
Does that mean everyone can go home early today?
I don't know. I don't know if you go home early from a flight, especially if you're connecting.
Yeah.
But it's a wake up call to the industry of how fast it is moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if it'll slow down, but it's a wake up call that there are so many interconnected things. I don't believe in this industry anything is overly complicated, any individual piece of it.
But the network itself, or the
But when you add all the aggregates of everything that goes together, it ends up being a 5,000 piece jigsaw puzzle.
Gotcha.
So it ends up being a complex thing that is being delivered.
Gotcha.
And our society is, if this happened 20 years ago, well, we were trying to get ahead. We're trying to use technology. Now, as a human race, we're dependent on it.
Yeah. No question, right?
Yeah.
we were talking about, even airlines, they still can do paper tickets, et cetera, kind of, but not really, right?
Right.
Those days are done, right?
Yeah.
Of, the thing spitting out and they can write on it with a pen.
Yeah.
Just doesn't happen. So
tell us about Metric. Tell us about you.
Yeah.
Tell us about Metric. Tell us about, the types of companies you like to work with and what you do and how you help them.
Yeah. So we're an Indianapolis-based IT solution provider. All right. And interestingly enough, for today, this outage was related to cybersecurity. At this point, you have to have some type of cybersecurity posture, along with your traditional, okay, we've got hardware devices and they're networked together. But at the end of the day, depending on your industry, and the industry we focus on is going to be the architects, engineers, and general contractor and subcontractor.
Okay.
Your builders, right? They need these systems to do estimating, job costing, scheduling, project management, and field office communications. This is how these companies leverage systems to get ahead, right? So back in the day, you were bidding a project, bidding a job. You had 5 or 6 phones in an office like this, fax machines.
right.
And it's pencil and paper, right? Well, now
drawings.
yeah, now the technology's handling that.
Right.
So you have to understand what your business is trying to use these applications and the systems for. And then of course, that industry requires every industry needs cybersecurity too. So you're doing all of that. We like to focus on businesses that are certainly headquartered in Indianapolis, in surrounding areas. And we've got just a really good, tight, knit integration and relationship with our customers because we've been with them a long time. And I think that's a good start.
So
Right.
for the uninitiated of IT support in the IT world, which I count myself as, what do you focus on for them? Is it the managed service providing, those kind of help tickets, tech stack analysis? Do you help in future IT, that kind of thing? Give us an idea.
Yeah, that's a great question. So take, for example, today, this outage, right? It's one piece of software. Name happens to be CrowdStrike. Fortunately, for whatever reason, we as a company do not use CrowdStrike. So every one of our systems at every one of our customers
Still up and running.
is still up and running. They're not part of the news.
So that's why your phone's not buzzing as we speak.
Yeah, that's why we're in this conversation right now with our blood pressure at normal limits, right? But the reason I mention that is you get into all of those complexities. I mean, that's just one piece of software,
Sure.
right? There's a whole lot of other things. But to answer your question, Bob, it all starts with the consulting piece. You're running a business. What type of business are you running? What are your goals? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to improve your operations? If you're wanting to improve your operations, you're going to want to talk to us because we have the experience to set up and design the systems that are going to be necessary for you to achieve your goals.
Okay.
Once that piece is done, then we, once you're a customer, we've gone through that process. Then every year we're going to periodically align your systems with where they need to be in best practice operations, because the technology changes, right?
Sure.
It has a habit of falling out of alignment. You bought it in year one or day one, worked great, and somehow 3 years later, it's just not the same. Well, there's reasons for that. So we're going to be looking at that every year and finding out where it's not in alignment and straightening it out.
Gotcha.
The next piece is all of this software, whether it's CrowdStrike, SentinelOne, whatever it takes. All right. And there's we probably use 7 to 10 softwares across your systems. We're managing all those software components, installing them, configuring them, keeping them updated, and keeping those in alignment. And after that, then you're looking at the traditional reactive support. You need help on site. Okay, we've got boots on the ground. We're coming to get you.
Gotcha.
And our boots on the ground are, they're local boots on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
They're the people you interact with in the community.
Right.
Okay. If we don't need to come on the ground, well, you can call us. We have an office, and we can remote into your systems, handle it that way.
Sure.
Whatever it takes to get a hold of us, we're there, do the support. And then whatever projects you have that are changes to your infrastructure that you're looking to upgrade, maybe implement a new technology. So depending on your business, you would have a different strategy.
Sure.
Right. A construction company, again, is going to be focused on estimating job costing, scheduling, field office communication. A manufacturing company, which, we have plenty of those also, you're talking about ERP systems, inventory, change control.
Fund systems.
Yeah. You've got sales forces that, operate a little bit differently from a communication standpoint. So, small business.
So if I'm a small construction company, I got one guy, one owner, 10 guys in the field floating around.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things get done on paper still, but
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, I want to put iPads in the field with I see that a lot where they kind of go from the paper work order system to something digital. That's where if I'm your client, you're going to help me and guide me through that process.
Absolutely.
What do I need to do? What do I need to look out for?
Would you do a software selection process with them, like an evaluation process, like to uncover their needs for a particular line of business software and do a needs analysis with them to make sure it fits into the larger IT picture? Is that part of the scope of what you do?
Yes, multiple times we've done that. And where you normally see that is because there's so many softwares. I mean, construction, we've been building, well, we didn't do it, but the pyramids were built a long time ago.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure they were accounting
The
for
ones here locally?
Yeah.
They weren't using Jobber.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you look at, it's the process, right? And given that software is a lot more easy to develop now than it was 20 years ago,
Sure.
you have a lot of options. Where you will see this in the construction industry is that 10 user contractor is using QuickBooks,
Yes.
right?
Always my favorite topic.
So QuickBooks is a great traditional accounting software, but there comes a point when your operation gets large enough that you require construction accounting software,
Correct.
right? And that's where, we'll step in and say, hey, listen, you might want to consider these types. Let's do some demos, take a look, all right, and see what's going to be a better fit for you, because there are there are things that are specific to construction accounting that at a certain scale that enters in pretty quickly, actually.
Sure. Yeah.
It's not, you don't have to wait till you have 100 people.
Right.
10 is plenty.
You bet.
That you want to start using these systems so that you have the efficiency and productivity that you're expecting.
Okay.
And frankly, that your competitors have.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, in the AEC space, what do you see some of the, opportunities and threats to that industry from an IT perspective right now, or those industries? Yeah.
Great question. I have an affinity for the industry because I started out as a civil engineer from Purdue.
Boiler up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
With the construction
Sorry,
emphasis.
Adam, had to get that.
Right.
Yeah. And
Did you say boiler up?
I did.
Okay, good.
It's not chirp chirp. It's different.
so if you look at how IT originated and who used it first, it was really the accounting systems way back, in the 80s, the accountants, and then from a small business standpoint, right? The contractors were still putting nails in the walls, right? They were still, hanging drywall. They were still, it didn't stop the building process, but as the world became more interconnected and information was needed to, get to and fro much faster, well, the construction company had to start adopting the technology also. But because of that, because they were late adopters, I feel and I see every day that they are underserved.
Keep talking.
Yeah.
They are underserved.
In what way? Give me.
They're underserved in the fact that there is not somebody out there that is just sitting down with them and advising them about what, number one, is possible and where their risks are.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden they get hacked, right? All of a sudden emails are getting sent out. They can't get into their systems. And then they're assuming the phones are working, right? They're on their phones. Oh, that message was for me. So you're getting into reputation management.
Yeah.
Right. Getting into reputation management. You're getting into, slowing the billing processes down. And frankly, people just don't come to work employee-wise from an employee satisfaction. They don't come to work to have to do anything other than what their job is.
Right.
And the big detour you have to take when something goes wrong, especially when it's an attack, when there's a bad actor.
Yeah. And, even this morning, a lot of people woke up to blue screens.
They sure
Right?
did.
Come into work. I want to do my thing. It's Friday. Going to finish strong. Blue screen.
Yeah. And the West Coast is barely even awake right now.
Right.
There's a lot of population out there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk more specifically in general about the IT industry. Where do you see that going? I mean, clearly you've got, an advancement of AI, and then, just a real general, misunderstanding of AI from a perspective of how it applies to the IT world. Let's demystify that a little bit. What do you see?
The Coming Wave, a book by, I'm not going to remember his name. I think his first name might have been.
Find it on Amazon.
Find it on Amazon. The Coming Wave. Yeah. Ex-Google employee that was in the AI space. And he has his own AI company. He went over the history, the risks, and all that type of stuff. My first comment is we are way ahead of, from an AI standpoint of where we realize. I'll give you an example. For the good, we're looking at take DNA, right? The double helix,
right.
ATGC,
Yep.
right? Millions of these combinations. Well, AI already developed an organism with maybe 50 or 60 of them. Just like that.
Just
right?
overnight.
Yeah.
Right?
Humans have been on the earth for, I don't know how many, tens of thousands of years, and, Jarvis or Skynet, whatever you want to call it.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's a great, you might be able to cure disease. We've got global population issues. We've got declining birth rates. Who's going to take care of all these people and deal with the problems? AI is going to figure out these things for us, which is a tremendous, wonderful thing. But then you've got the other side of it being weaponized.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. And the weaponization is I found it interesting a couple of years ago. I don't know if you had heard these things, but some people are not wanting to use Chinese electronics.
Sure.
Right? I'm not going to use that app. It was developed in China, and they're spying on me.
Right.
I don't know if they are or they're not.
Maybe they are, maybe they aren't.
Right.
But you can't be sure they are, and you can't be sure they
they're
aren't.
not.
That's right. That's right. But what I am sure of is that our government has made it illegal for our companies such as NVIDIA and Intel, Micron, the chip manufacturers, to sell and ship their high-end chips that are specifically used for AI to China. It's illegal.
Right.
So that's really what's going on, is that, our governments know what's on the line with this and have got to do everything, they can to make sure that we are not behind on this endeavor.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So tell us about you. How'd you come to found Metric IT? Why did you find it? I mean, you obviously have a degree in civil engineering.
Yeah.
So tell us about your journey. How'd this formulate? How'd this come together?
Yeah. So I always knew as a young kid I was going to own a business because my parents did and my grandparents did. So I felt just from a family fitting in thing. All of this stuff is emotionally driven when it's all said and done with, right?
Sure.
But as we went through back in the mid 90s, you're on the cusp of the internet bubble, right? The .com, you're really starting to get all this kind of stuff, and that was really when computers were starting to become networked on a small business level. Mm-hmm. And it just was a passion of mine. It always was. Even though I was, degreed as a civil engineer from Purdue, I was always playing around with the computers, trying to make them better. And at my first job, I ended up taking care of the computer network. This was Y2K time.
Oh,
they luckily a small company, took a shot on me because I just wanted the job. They probably would have taken the janitor. Right.
Just sit in that corner and watch the computers.
Yeah.
Right?
But once I got into it, that was when you're in the right spot and it's the right groove, you just take off and you're not really looking back.
Right.
So it was only a matter of time before, I started, my own practice in my mid 20s, which was, 20 years ago or so.
Right. Time's flown, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It has. And from an industry standpoint, the changes in the industry, it evolved, right? It started with just machines, and then they could talk a little, and then they can talk to everybody, and then there's security. Like all these things have bolted on over time. And I'm not really of the opinion that they've gotten any simpler.
Right.
They've become more available.
Right.
For everybody.
Yeah.
Right. The world. But there's still that complexity piece, and it seems that kind of just bit somebody, some team or employee at CrowdStrike.
Yeah.
Right.
And
wouldn't want to be that guy today.
Yeah. It's a rough day for them.
So using that as an example, for a small business, the things that are tools available to them now are just phenomenal, right?
That's
There's
right.
so many tools,
Mm-hmm.
but then you also have the problem is there's so many tools. And so, let's say over the next 5 to 10 years, what do you see kind of happening in the small business space? Just like you just described, right? We just kind of went through 20, 30 years of this thing where all of a sudden I can do QuickBooks on my cell phone.
Yeah.
Right, as a small business owner, I can invoice you right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it all works. So next 5 or 10 years, what do you see that next wave maybe being from a small business standpoint? Big corporate guys, that's a whole different issue.
Mm-hmm.
But from a small business standpoint, is it going to get easier for a small business or actually more difficult just because of choices?
Yeah. I think the business climate is the same as it's always been for a couple hundred years. Everybody's in a race to figure it out. Whatever their industry is,
Mm-hmm.
You're in a race to just have that, differentiator, competitive edge, whatever it is. As it relates to right now in the next 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and certainly by 10, it comes back to artificial intelligence. What's going to happen is where you store your data. Artificial intelligence will be able to read it, come up with some conclusions, and then give you an answer and insights on that stuff.
Okay.
Right? So if you thought your data was important now, and you look at the concept of how ransomware works, right? Ransomware is nothing more than you as an individual or a business owner or a shareholder, stockholder, doesn't matter the size. You know, CDK, they're a global company. They run all the inventory and systems on the car dealerships.
Oh, yeah.
Cyber attack a few weeks ago, right?
Sure.
$80 million ransom. Obviously, the bad actors know that CDK is going to pay the money, or they hope they will, right? So any small business owner says, well, I'm not CDK. I'm not, anybody that hit the news, right? That's true. But you think your data is important. And if you do, you attach a value to it. The fundamental concept of ransom, and that means you're a target.
Right.
So now if your data is already important to you, what do you think about having an additional data point or set of data that is the review and insights to that data? Well, your data might have been silver, but the insights on it is gold.
Right.
Which means the ransom just went up. So cybersecurity is not, in my opinion, going to be solved or going by the wayside. It's only going to get worse.
It's going to be a continual cat and mouse game.
Radar detector.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly. Yep.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's not only just the business itself, right? We all own businesses, and I've got my data, but I also have client data, right? Think about the impact. Construction company. Mm-hmm. It's not just their internal things they have. They have tons of data on every client that they've ever touched, right? Emails, contacts, financials, invoices.
Imagine you build banks. You
Correct.
Probably have the blueprints to the vault.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, with the advancement in the ability to collect data and the instruments and tools that are collecting data and making analysis like AI with that data, do you see an evolution coming for the compression of storing data? Because if not, where do we continue to put, storage units?
That's a great question. I would have to go. I haven't thought of that, but what comes to my mind is when the transistor was developed, there was a certain amount of transistors that would fit on a wafer, right?
Yeah.
And over time, we have increased the density of transistors per unit wafer. I've got a cousin, upstate New York who is, does very well at Global Foundries, and he's got patents on doing that. So I don't know that it's a room thing. We're just going to continue to innovate
and iterate it forward. There's not going to be like this massive new way to have massive compression.
I don't think so. But I don't know. I can say
maybe
this.
AI will figure it out for us.
There you go.
Maybe AI will just clean our rooms, right?
Right.
Well, AI figure out how to reduce its own power consumption.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's other issues. When you look at, we're talking about population demand, we've got power consumption issues, like how are we going to power all of this stuff? And these are all challenges that you either believe humanity is going to innovate and figure out, or they're not. I'm an optimist.
Yeah, we always seem to.
Right? Yeah, I think they will. But
we're pretty resilient, right? As human beings.
It's amazing.
We are.
We've been around a while.
We are as a human race, and I think we are as a country. Sure.
Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Just switch gears a little bit. What do you like doing for fun?
Well, I like playing rock and roll music. With Adam and other folks over at the Rock Garage in Indianapolis. So
the connection.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I still like physically taking care of myself or torturing myself through triathlons and endurance event sports. So I enjoy doing that. I love spending time with my family.
Yeah,
sure.
And if you can if you got a spare weekend and you want to get out to, the racetrack and run the cars around, that's always fun too.
You bet.
Yeah.
I remember that conversation.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah.
My pleasure,
Very,
guys.
very informative. Thank you. How do
How do
people get in
reach
touch with you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can do it the old way and call us at 317-513-4161. Talk to a live local
A
human
real
being in
human.
Indianapolis.
Yeah.
What
Yes.
about a homing pigeon? Will that work?
We've got them all. We've got the coos and everything.
Is it metricit.com?
Yeah, Metric.
Okay.
If you go
Awesome.
to www.metricit.com, you
All right.
can reach us there as well.
So if there's one thing that you would want a small business owner to walk away with today, just in terms of IT, what would be the one thing you want them to kind of think about?
I would want them to feel. I want them to have some curiosity and to have a belief and some confidence that it can be done. It can be done right, and you don't have to worry about it.
Right.
You just have to talk to the right, team, person, whatever.
Sure.
Potential partner.
Yeah. There are, this can be done, and it is being done.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ways it's not. But the average person, I think,
It's a good
because
message.
because they're underserved, right?
Sure.
After a day like today, who wants to who wants to talk about them? But the
Right.
fact of the matter is
Yeah.
this is today, there is tomorrow, and there are good companies that are doing a great job with it.
Maybe they'll hire us to rebrand them. Right.
There you
That's
go.
right.
Yeah. Oh. Funny how that works.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate it, Mike, very much.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks for being on.
Awesome.